Which one of the following doesn't have sp2 hybridized carbon? Acetone, acetonitrile, acetamide and acetic acid. First, we have to draw the structures of all these four compounds. This is acetone, compound 2, it's acetonitrile, compound 3, it's acetamide which contain amide bond, amide functional group and acetic acid which contain carboxylic acid functional group. Now the carbon which has a double bond, one double bond and two single bond, that carbon will be sp2. And the carbon which has three single bonds, that will be sp3. So left hand side and the right hand side two carbons are sp3. In between the carbonyl carbon is sp2. Now in the second molecule in the acetonitrile, the middle carbon has one triple bond and one single bond, so it will be sp. And the left hand side carbon, it has four single bond, means three single bonds with hydrogen and one single bond with carbon, so this carbon is sp3. Next molecule is acetamide. The left hand side carbon, it has four single bonds, so sp3. This carbon has one double bond, two single bonds, so that means it is sp2. Next one is acetic acid. Left hand side carbon sp3 because four single bonds. C double bond O, this carbon has one double bond, two single bonds, so that means this carbon is sp2. So which one of the following doesn't have sp2 hybridized carbon? So correct answer is acetonitrile, where one carbon is sp3 and second carbon is sp hybridized. Next question, mention the hybridization of carbon and nitrogen atoms in below molecules: C2H4, N2F2, C2H2Cl2 and HCN. In my previous slides, I have already explained how to find out the hybridization of the carbon atoms. If carbon has one double bond and two single bonds, so that means this carbon will be sp2 hybridized. Now, how to find out the hybridization of other elements rather than carbon? Here it is a nitrogen atoms, so that means nitrogen has one lone pair and two single bonds and one double bond. So when we try to find out the hybridization of other element, we can ignore the number of pi bonds. We can check the number of single bonds and number of lone pairs. So in this nitrogen, you have two single bonds and one lone pair. That means nitrogen has three hands. Three hands means nitrogen will be sp2. So both the nitrogens are sp2 hybridized. Next one, this again it's a carbon molecules. Carbon molecules, we already know that if carbon has one double bond, two single bond, then it will be sp2. So both the carbons are sp2. Last one is acetonitrile. This carbon is one triple bond, one single bond, so sp hybridized. Now look into the nitrogen part. So nitrogen has one single bond, two pi bonds and one lone pair. So as I mentioned you earlier, for other elements rather than carbons, we have to check number of single bond and number of lone pairs are present. So nitrogen has one single bond, one lone pair. That means two hands. So nitrogen will be sp hybridized. Which of the following molecules has two sigma and two pi bonds? Is a very fundamental questions for organic chemistry students. So here we have to first draw the structures of all the molecules. In the C2H4, we can see there are one carbon-carbon single bond and carbon-hydrogen sigma bonds are 4 and one carbon-carbon pi bonds. In N2F2, there are one NN sigma bonds and two NF sigma bonds and one NN pi bonds. C2H2Cl2, so carbon-carbon one single bond, carbon-carbon one pi bond. Now carbon hydrogen two sigma bonds and carbon chlorine two sigma bonds. Last molecules is acetone HCN, HC triple bond N. So carbon has one sigma bond with hydrogen and one sigma bond with nitrogen, and carbon has two pi bonds with the nitrogen. I hope these videos will be helpful to clear your fundamental concept in organic chemistry. Thank you for watching it.